are other civilizations which are older than our own and have got much further than we have, they must have very advanced technologies. And I wonder what forms these technologies take.
Well, again, very difficult to estimate, but there are stars which are billions of years older than our sun. Some of them very likely have planets, and therefore I can imagine civilizations immensely beyond the capabilities of our own. What capabilities those are, no one can tell.
As of recent, I've been falling down this rabbit hole of what is real, what is reality, dimensions, all this weird stuff, right? It's kind of all meshing together. I've been really interested in that one show, Ancient Aliens, something with Giorgio, big hair, sloppy bottom puss, like some crazy name, and big hair. But I think he's painted as this eccentric wacko who's just really into space, but I think he's so smart and onto something, and he has this awesome energy that when you watch him, it makes you really interested in what he's talking about. And then watching that, but at the same time, kind of learning what religions are about and the meanings and the beginnings, the origins of the stories, all of that stuff. Because if you think about it, it is man's history, it is books, it is the stories that we've lived through or experienced put down, and it's been translated many times from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which, you know, they can't even be certain what those say exactly, but a rough translation gave us, you know, what we have today. And there's interpretations that different religions take away from the readings, and obviously that leads to different beliefs. And it's interesting how when you look at religion and what's in the Bible, like the Christian Bible specifically, something I had never read before. I don't know much of the Bible. I went to church very sporadically, and growing up, religion wasn't very much enforced in the household, so you kind of grew up more spiritual or curious, I guess you would say, just kind of open to anything. So it led me to all these conversations I would have from everybody, including atheist and agnostic people, to evangelicals and Catholics and Southern Baptists, like all across the board. I've had so many interesting conversations, and it was really interesting because, you know, as a kid, you look at it from the perspective, well, I have to figure out which one's right, right? Like, which one is the right religion, which one is the most accurate. And slowly I came to realize, kind of not connecting myself to any religion in particular, that they kind of all talk about the same thing. They try to get to the same conclusion of an almighty higher being, a deity that we pay homage to and helped create us and all this stuff. But what I think is really fascinating is the different interpretations of the stories. So, you know, there's different interpretations of the Noah's Ark story, for example, in the Bible. You know, you have many Christians who believe that Noah gathered one of each type of animal so that they could procreate later, but then you have other people with spiritual beliefs, an extraterrestrial DNA bank. So it could literally have just been vials of DNA of every type of species that had been on Earth. It was going to get wiped out, and they had to start over. These are fascinating ideas to me. But all of this to say, it's kind of all circling each other, from the alien stuff to the religious stuff to the science stuff to the what is reality stuff. And last night it came to a head when I was introduced to the movie Contact, and holy fuck, my mind is blown. How I have never watched this movie before is beyond me. I love Jodie Foster. Hello, Silence of the Lambs. I thought that was her peak, right? I thought she was amazing in Panic Room. I thought she was amazing in Flight Plan. I thought she was amazing in Nell. But holy shit, the peak of her career had to be making this movie. Everything from it being one of only, if not the only movies to have a sitting president make a cameo in it, and I do believe that Bill Clinton made that cameo while he was in presidency because he is so passionate about the topic of extraterrestrial life. He said that many times in interviews. That was one of the first things he was intrigued with as president, which I think is fascinating. I think that's so cool. I think our government and higher ups know a lot more about extraterrestrials than we do. Also, while watching X-Files, I know I'm like totally surrounding myself with this kind of information, and some might say, well, that's triggering you to think like that, but it isn't. That's why I'm kind of telling you it's coming from all sorts of ways. I'm learning things about stories in the Bible, stories I didn't even know of or knew what they represented, but I'm finding out meanings that I had never heard before, and interpretations of these stories that I never thought of, that's opening my mind to a realm of possibility that is exciting and hopeful and awesome. And it makes me realize that what we're doing here, this facade of consumerism and authoritarianism and dictatorship and hate and war, all of that, it's fake. It's all fake. It's an experiment on what the human population will do to itself given just a little taste of power. And it shows you, we've seen what people do when they have power and they use it for not good. They start wars, there's famine, there's hunger, there's hate. That's what the world thrives on when we're in that negative spiral. But if we realize that humanity is actually out here to do good and showing compassion to our fellow man, and these are the teachings of the Bible, these are what previous generations, hundreds of years before us, are trying to tell us. Work together, find a common good that unites you, move forward, progress to learn more about space exploration, and use this time that we were gifted being born in the late 90s, early millennium, when technology was really introduced to the public, and created this connectivity for humanity that we had never seen before, at least this time around. And kind of piecing together whether or not we are just an experimental race for some extraterrestrial life forms or AI or whatever may have started it really makes you wonder, why are we so hell-bent on fighting with each other over our ideologies instead of trying to advance to figure out what brought us here? What created this? What are we supposed to be doing? We have a greater good to figure out here. There's a purpose, and we can get back on track. And what I loved is the movie context centered around that ideology of science versus God and creation, but it merged them so beautifully. And I think when you take those subjects and you dismiss one for the other, or vice versa, you're shutting down so many ideas and so many correct ways of thinking that go along with the other, but you're choosing to make it a one or the other scenario. I very much think that science has a large role in where we as humans need to go and our learning and our history, but I also think that there is an almighty being, a God, a creator of some sort. I think powers and energies, whatever you want to call it, I think they flow through dimensions differently, and I think here in the third dimension, the life that we're living here on Earth, we're just interpreting it a different way in our 3D world, right? Like, there could be alien life forms, alien planets out there that are higher dimensions, that are living in higher dimensions than we are. Like in the movie Contact, where the aliens from the planet Vega were sending us a message that needed to be interpreted, and while doing that, the role Jodie Foster was playing was dealing with this battle of having to weigh her heavily science view versus the God-fearing public, and she kept dismissing that as irrelevant and not part of the bigger picture here. She wanted to figure out how to advance humanity. She didn't want to get stuck on the fact, do we believe in something we cannot prove exists, until the end of the movie, after she goes on this insane journey that is so beautifully filmed. It's epic, it's brilliant, it makes Interstellar look like a pajama party. It doesn't even compute. I cannot believe that this movie isn't just still talked about today. Made in 97, it doesn't even make sense. But funny enough, Matthew McConaughey is in both this and Interstellar, which I thought was really fascinating. Contact with just an incredible crew from Jenna Malone, Tom Skerritt, an incredible cast of characters. I mean, these people brought their A game. This story is captivating. It pulls you in from the beginning, follows her throughout her life, really weaves in her story well, really introduce different ideas and themes of the movie throughout that keep you captivated. When you think you got the movie figured out, it takes a turn and it pulls you in another way. Very cool. If you haven't seen the movie, you need to check it out. I think it's honestly just the icing on the cake for me right now in trying to learn about this topic. I love being introduced to new things and things that go far deeper and explore the insane parts of what could be real that not a lot of people touch. Like, Hollywood doesn't make a lot of $90 million blockbuster sci-fi movies that include, our government wanting control over space exploration, however, scientists wanting it to be public knowledge, and how countries have to work together kind of in secrecy to make sure that the information gets to the people. It's fascinating. I mean, this is stuff we have lived through in the past. It's stuff that will continue in our future. Very, very real, honest topics being talked about in that movie, and also in some of the programs I was talking about, like Ancient Aliens. I'm not sure if you are on YouTube a lot, but check out Spirit Science. That's another one showing a lot of real, like a lot of things that I always take into credit people who are sharing views where they express them as something they want you to take away from the conversation, but not to just believe for face value. They want you to think about it, digest it, come back with questions. I love people that approach topics like that. I do not love people who approach topics like, this is right, you're wrong, this is why you need to believe me. I don't think that's a winning strategy. If you're trying to debate, you need to come with facts, you need to come with ideas, you need to come with creativity. I don't think that just pounding down the idea that I have a louder voice and I'm going to say that I'm right until you believe it, I don't like that tactic. I want everybody to listen. I want all ideas flowing. I think people on both ends of the spectrum, whether you're science or whether you're religion, both have amazing views, and I think they need to work together. I think both are correct. I think we were misguided through all the greed and the war and the evil and the tyranny, but I think we're coming out of that. I think that was that whole 2012 shift that Spirit Science talks about. Shout out to Jordan, he's incredible. Really, check out those videos, they're eye-opening. It makes you look at life differently. And that is one of the coolest things that I've walked away from gaining all of this knowledge, is I'm looking at life differently, and there's a different reason for why I'm here. And I want to explore that, and I want to help other people learn and be creative, and I want to figure out what we're supposed to be doing. I want to get back on the path that humanity was on until consumerism corrupted it, and that whole Freudian fuck up. But just all of these ideas, I wanted to share it with you guys, and hopefully we can get a really dynamic conversation going, because everybody has amazing ideas for what they think is out in space, astronomy in general, or even what happens after death. Because honestly, if this movie Contact kind of shows you where your spirit can go if you're not attached to this planet, fascinating stuff. I mean, incredible. Really, check out this movie, one of Jodie Foster's best. Honestly, hands down my favorite Jodie Foster movie. If you're a huge fan of the 90s, it's throwback nostalgia. It's one of those movies that just really grips you the whole way through. It has action, it has heart, it's really beautifully done, and honestly, have to give it to Carl Sagan, the author that made all of this possible, one of the inventors of creativity when it comes to sci-fi and speaking your mind and owning the truth. A really powerful author, a really creative soul, and shout out to him. Thank you for bestowing this creativity upon us, and I cannot wait to read the book now that I was introduced to the movie. Anyway, I hope you're all having an awesome Tuesday. I wanted to get this video out there because I think this subject is so fascinating, and I'm going to make more regarding space and astronomy and exploration just because I'm fascinated by that topic. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Please add any creative thoughts you have below, and if you want to dispute it, cool, do that too. It's what we're here for, right? Alright, well have a good rest of your week, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace!